In Indonesia's case, I think there was communication was very clear, and I think that helped to really get the investors, warm to the idea that there's going to be a burden sharing arrangement between the government as well as the central bank. So I think that was received quite well. What happens with direct is that you in a way improve the bond market dynamics, because whatever borrowings is going to be done, that faces better demand supply dynamics because you have a ready buyer in place, particularly at a time when foreign investors generally are quite wary and they come back at a very gingerly pace. The next question, once you have the burden sharing framework, I think the next question is going to be how long will the system remain in place. So I think that's what, so I would think the two aspects that the markets are looking at: how long will this remain in place, and then what would be the exit strategy from this kind of an arrangement. On the first, there seems to be some indication that this might certainly be very pandemic specific, but you might see the central bank continue to support the debt markets and as well as the fiscal program for a couple of years more. And I think that got at least some pockets of investors a bit concerned. And the second aspect was that communication on what would be the exit strategy is also awaited. So I would think the arrangement by itself, the framework, is very timely, and I think it is very important in a year like this, particularly when you're going to see record number of issuances and borrowings. But nonetheless, the second, third question, derivative questions start to come up, where you're going to expect this to be more one and done or a temporary arrangement, and that this doesn't become a recurrent financing line. So I would think that the coming months there would be more clarity and communication on this, and this will certainly help provide a good backstop for the debt markets.
If we pay closer attention, this burden sharing mechanism has been imposed ever since July, and ever since then, we have also the increasing number of the net sell in our Indonesian sovereign debt papers, government bond, as well as the weakening trend in our rupiah's movement. Has it something to do with that? Has it something to do with the changing or the shifting mindset of the global investor toward this issue?
I think a couple of factors did affect the currency. Firstly, but what we noticed, in fact, is that there was a yawn, meaning the rupiah movement and the bond yields had in fact started to diverge. That means bond yields had started to come down while the rupiah had started to weaken. And we think that divergence has got to do with the fact that any kind of direct monetization program or debt purchase program usually adds to the monetary base, and that in turn impacts the currency. And I think that's why the currency was reacting the way it was, while being higher domestic participation. Even though the foreign investors were sellers, I think you had the central bank as well as the banks who had stepped in to buy bonds, and that's why you had seen the bond yields correct lower. So that divergence, I think, partly explains it. Again, I think I would go back to the point that once the markets have, and I think at the same time, we also noticed that globally, dollar had in fact hit bottom and it had begun to inch up. So there are a few factors that are adding to the rupiah weakness, but we would think that once the clarity again emerges over how frequent is this kind of an arrangement going to be, and if those BI charter plans is the other aspect that markets are waiting some clarity on. If those aspects are addressed, I would think that then the rupiah will start to follow the regional trend, which is where we are beginning to see that because of dollar strength, most of the currencies which were stable in the first half of the year are beginning to depreciate very modestly.